Hi, Amy. Looking forward to our sixth podcast because today we're going to be talking about the power of storytelling. It's National Care Leavers Month that we spoke about last week. We're going to talk today about the power of telling stories, both in person and online, and what that does in terms of community building. So over to you.
Hi, Sarah. So it's been another good week. I was just reflecting this week on something I did last weekend, which is attend the Bristol TEDx story and presentations. And there were 3 presenters out of 5 that I saw last week that talked around some of the challenges of young people through different lenses. And I was really blown away just to hear how these 3 people in particular are driving change in the world, making a difference. The theme was human futures and all about the power of authenticity and people making a difference. And all 3 really drew from their own personal experiences, their lived experiences and stories, and are powering through to make a difference for young people as a result of it. And it really resonated with something we're doing on Rethink Places as a community, which is to bring podcasts and videos and hearing from those with lived experience as a form of igniting motivation, but also creating conversation and empathy and offering up new perspectives. But I think there's just something very, very powerful about hearing from very authentic stories that people have experienced and why that has driven them to do what they're doing.
And it's so fitting with the theme of National Care Leavers Month, which is Rising as Me, because it is actually really raising awareness of that lived experience, as you're saying. And you've got personal experience and you've got your own story, which you have shared previously. And I think you're going to talk a little bit about that today as well, because that is an amazing story.
Well, amazing and tough at times. But one of the people that we heard from last week, Roxroy Fearon, he talked about his experience of being looked after or in care. And my own story is an experience of being a kinship carer for my niece and nephews 3 years ago after they very sadly lost their mum. What I do as a kinship carer is really advocate for them and their stories, and not to take away from their stories and their experiences of what they have gone through. But one of those challenges has been about securing the tenancy of the home that they live in. And that's been really, really difficult. And just last month, we finally got the letter that confirmed that they can stay in the house that they've been brought up in and that they have a secure tenancy. And that's been a lot from what they've done in terms of making sure that the home is looked after. And my role in that has been to advocate for them, to help with liaison with the housing association. But they've done it themselves in terms of making sure that they did secure that tenancy. And Roxy last week, when he talked about as adults really kind of looking out for young people and being that supporting voice where they need it, or that reassurance, because he talks about that point in time being a real kind of direction changer for what might come next. And one of the things that we know from the Rethink community is that there's lots of aspects of being a care leaver or being care experience that make a difference to what you then go on to and how you can thrive. And we know that having a secure home is just one part of that. And so for us, it's a bit of a joy and a celebration moment that we've got to this stage, because it is nearly 3 years of insecurity, really, and not really being sure what was going to happen.
It's one of the most important things, isn't it? Having that personal safe space, that sanctuary, that consistency, knowing that you've got that certainty around you. And it's so important. So well done to the kids, or the young adults, should I say, the young adults, and well done to you, because what have you learned about the process and the system as you've gone through this as an adult, and how have you navigated that?
The barriers are huge. We've had eviction notices in that time. We've had to form relationships with the housing associations to articulate the story of what's happened here and explain the history. There's been legal elements to it. There's been lots of uncertainty, but living with that for a period of time, making sure that Fred, my nephew that's got the secure tenancy, understands what a tenancy actually means. And it also resonates. We've As part of Rethink Places, we've interviewed another care experience young person over the past week, and she's also been advocating for other young people. And she talks about having a home is not just the answer, it's also about being part of the community that you live in. And that's why it's been so important for us that they stay in the family home, because it's not just the house, it's also the community that they're familiar with, the relationships of the people on the street, the connection with those that they know in the area, and also living together. And I know for some young people who are care experienced, even just to be placed or to be able to stay with siblings is tough and not always possible. So it's being in the adult of that, it's kind of really just advocating all the time, making sure that people are hearing their voices and that they're not forgotten or really falling behind.
And it doesn't sound like it's an easy thing to do. It sounds like all the things you talk about sound very obvious. Obviously, it would appear to make sense that these young people can stay in an area that they're familiar with, where they're known, near to their schools or colleges, in a familiar setting. And of course, being with siblings when they have good relationships seems to be an obvious thing, but it doesn't sound...
The system doesn't necessarily say yes, 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 yes to all of that, even though you would think so. It's been eye-opening, to be honest. But I have one thing I will say through the whole process is that there are some really good people out there in that system who want to do the right thing and who want to drive for the right thing. And it's how the organisations and systems harness those people as well. So there's those that advocate, but there's also those that understand and navigate systems with you and for you to work through that. And so there's definitely a real power in the belief of others to support.
And I guess the support to keep the young people motivated to keep going, because I would imagine if you're not in a supported place or you don't feel positive about what's going in life at a particular moment in time, it would feels to me that it would be quite easy to give up and just
you've got to kind of, I guess, always, and Lamar Mosen talked about this as well, it's almost re-traumatizing. There's already trauma or something difficult that's happened, and so you've already got that backdrop, and then you're dealing with this. So I think it's tough already, and then you add in this challenge. But my goodness, doesn't it build resilience for young people as well?
It's great that you've got this lived experience and you are able to start to share the positives from your story and the story of your family, because it's good things do happen and there are good people, and the work that you're doing through the Rethink Places community is connecting those good people together so you can do more together, which is fantastic.
And I think my final kind of thing to say on all of that is there are also some very good charities. So as part of National Care Leavers Month, I also just want to reference Kinship Care, who've been the charity that have supported us, who are brilliant with providing advice. Others that have gone through the experience, it's a community of itself almost of kinship carers. And that's hugely powerful and just so helpful to understand that you're not the only people going through that, or that the barriers that you're facing are the barriers that others are experiencing, but others have achieved and got through them. So there's optimism and hope as part of that as well.
Speaking to you on a regular basis and seeing how the work that you and the Rethink Places community are doing is actually now really taking hold, really progressing, it's building, and that's the power of online communities. So really looking forward to speaking to you again soon and finding out what's happening next.
Lovely. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.